All right, y'all, welcome to the show. It is safe to say that everything is going to shit. Everything is going to doo-doo. So in just a second, we have two nuclear-armed powers that are now going to war. Hope you sleep well tonight. I'll certainly be sleeping well tonight. Then we get to the sick reason that Trump is now purging generals from the military. This is an underreported story, but I think the ideology behind it is clear. We'll also talk about some new brutal polls that have brought Trump back to reality, at least for the time being. We have a fourth court smacking down Trump's alien enemies' deportations. Let me repeat that. A fourth court has now done that. I mean, we're eclipsing all records when it comes to the judicial branch saying, what the fuck are you doing? None of this is acceptable. And then later on, I have a detailed breakdown for you about how the world is officially done with the United States of America. Israel is now finally admitting its real plan for Gaza, and it's just as ugly as all of you think. And the group Anonymous, the group of ethical hackers, they're now going to war against Trump's fascism. Wait until I tell you the massive dub that they took the other day. So everybody, before I get into it, do me a big favor. You know the drill. Everybody, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. That helps out massively and costs you nothing at all. And of course, much love, extra love to all of you who support the show on Patreon. It could not be done without you. This is real independent media. I've never talked to an advertiser. I've never done an ad read or anything like that. I'm very proud of that fact, but you guys made that possible with your Patreon donations. You guys make it possible by tipping on YouTube. You guys make it possible by supporting Crystal Kyle and friends on Substack. And while we're at it with the shameless plugs, as I keep saying, everybody go subscribe to my boy Corin's YouTube channel, Corin's World, it's called, because we've been firing out Kyle and Corin's over there like nobody's business, and we're trying to get him to 100,000 subs. So hook a brother up over on Corin's World with a sub. All right, let's go ahead and dive into it, man. We got a lot to talk about. So the last time we talked about this on the show was in the year 2019. There is effectively, well, it was sort of like a Cold War going on between the Indian government and the government of Pakistan, but that Cold War has now become a hot war. Now, back in 2019, the Indian government, under Modi, who's a Hindu nationalist, far right-winger, they decided, we're going to effectively take away the sovereignty of this area called Kashmir and Jammu, okay? Now, that area, it's been contentious for a long time, but in 1947, India and Pakistan were partitioned by the British, right? So they were one. 1947 came, they separated. Obviously, they're majority Hindu on the Indian side. They're Muslim on the Pakistan side. They've sort of had bad blood since then. But there were these regions, Jammu and Kashmir, which were sovereign, or you could say like semi-sovereign, but the Indian government didn't like that. It's sort of disputed territory. India wants it, Pakistan wants it, etc. And so in 2019, Modi began the move to basically revoke the sovereignty and the independence and the special governing status of Jammu and Kashmir. I remember at the time, he basically cut off all the electricity to the region, shut down the internet, deployed forces, detained over 5,000 individuals. He abolished Article 35A, which allowed India to basically say, we are going to take over this region, or we're going to settle this region, or we're going to occupy this region. So this has been bubbling for a long time. But what happened just the other day is that India has now officially started bombing Pakistan. Now, again, we're talking about two nuclear-armed powers. So this is something I remember back, I think it was Barack Obama who was asked the question, what keeps you up at night when it comes to world problems? And his answer was India and Pakistan. India and Pakistan, because they're both nuclear-armed powers, and they're chomping at the bit to go at it with each other. And now it's all coming to a head. So, with that being said, let's jump right into it. I have the CNN breaking news report. We'll talk about this, then I'll give you more.
Welcome to The Brief. I'm Jim Sciutto in New York. We begin early today with breaking news. India launching a military operation targeting what it calls terrorist infrastructure inside Pakistan and Pakistan-administered Kashmir.
So there was a terror attack in India that they are blaming on Pakistan, and they're blaming on Kashmir and Jammu. There's really no evidence of that. So Modi is asserting this and attacking Pakistan because of it, but there's really no evidence that the attacks came in the way he said, or, the people to blame are the ones he's blaming.
Those the sounds of explosions during those strikes. India says it struck 9 targets, adding that none of them are Pakistani military facilities. A Pakistani military spokesperson says the country will respond to those attacks, adding that at least 3 people have been killed in the Indian strikes. This comes after gunmen killed 26 people in Indian-administered Kashmir last month. India blamed Pakistan for those attacks. Nick Robertson is live now in Islamabad.
So this map is actually super important too. So you have disputed region all over. A portion is China administered, but then you have India administered Jammu and Kashmir, and then is that Ladakh? Is that how you pronounce that? And it's a contested area, and now it's all blowing up, no pun intended.
Killed 26 people in Indian-administered Kashmir last month. India blamed Pakistan for those attacks. Nick Robertson is live now in Islamabad, and it's worth reminding our viewers that these are 2 nuclear-armed nations that have fired at each other before. Tell us what the situation is now and concerns about escalation now.
There's a real concern about escalation. Pakistan vowed that if India attacked, that they would respond. That was part of their military doctrine. They believe, and I've been speaking over the past few days with very senior security officials here, and they believe that this incident inside Indian-controlled Kashmir, where 26 civilians were killed, that India blamed on Pakistan, that Pakistan denied, they believe that this had now come, the relations with India had now come to a moment, a defining moment, where Pakistan needs to take a definitive stand, because India has threatened to cut off water supplies coming down 3 major rivers, vital, existential, security officials describe.
Whoa. All right, one more time. That is terrifying. The water thing?
With India had now come to a moment, a defining moment, where Pakistan needs to take a definitive stand, because India has threatened to cut off water supplies coming down 3 major rivers, vital, existential, security officials describe the water.
So India threatening to take away basically the water for Pakistan. Wow.
From those rivers. So this is a sort of context to why that this is at a moment of extreme potential escalation. Pakistani security officials are saying that they are right now, their air force right now is in the throes of delivering what they describe as a crushing blow to India as a response for this strike.
By the way, I should point out, just so everybody understands, the government of India is a Hindu nationalist far-right government led by Modi. And then in Pakistan, Imran Khan, the former president, was overthrown. And then now they're basically a military dictatorship. Like, they stole the last election pretty clearly. If you want to learn more about that, Ryan Grimm has been an expert on this, covering every single detail of it. But you have a military dictatorship on the one hand, and you have a Hindu nationalist far-right extremist government on the other hand. So the idea of hey, hopefully cooler heads will prevail, it looks like we're already past that point, because India bombed the shit out of Pakistan, and then Pakistan, as we'll get to in a second, they already have retaliated, and we don't know if there's even potentially more coming.
Previously, when I've spoken with Pakistani officials over the past few days, they've said that if India's retaliatory strike, which they thought was coming, they said if it just came in Pakistan-administered Kashmir, that would be something that would be more easily tolerable than striking Pakistan proper, if you will. At least 2 of the strikes we understand this evening, and we're getting these early details, are in Pakistan proper.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. So, in other words, the Pakistani government was like, yeah, man, if they do something, it would be bad, it'd be horrible, we'd retaliate, but if you just do it in the Pakistan-administered Jammu and Kashmir regions, okay, that's one thing, but if you actually hit Pakistan proper, bitch, it's on. And what we're hearing is India also hit Pakistan proper. Oh, boy. By the way, Trump was asked about this, and he literally said, I hope it's over quickly. We're just learning about this now. I just heard about it, but I hope it's over quickly. He also said, this fight has been going on for thousands of years between them. That is completely and utterly untrue. 1947 was partition. Everything we're talking about happened after 1947. He doesn't know anything. He's literally like, Good luck. Good luck to both sides.
This tells me, from what the officials have been speaking about, that this will demand from the Pakistani side a much higher level of response. Again, this speaks to the potential for escalation. How does India respond to this? One of those strikes in Murad K inside Pakistan proper was literally just about 20 miles from the border with India. So for their fighter jets, if that's what it was, to come over and strike, that was a relatively easy operation. However, these strikes have been on the audible, if you will, outskirts of Islamabad. Our cameraman here with me, Javid, his house is about an hour from where we are in the center of Islamabad. His house shook. There were 2 loud explosions, he said, and his house shook from those explosions. So that gives you an idea how close some of the strikes have been to Islamabad, perhaps about 50, 60, 70 kilometers away. The other explosions I was describing that have happened elsewhere in Pakistan have also been near the major city of Lahore, the sort of very outer reaches of that. So again, these are very strong signals, if you will, that the Indian military is sending to the Pakistani government. Again, it speaks to the potential for escalation. We have to wait and see what Pakistan's response is, what it's been. They describe it as crushing. We don't have details yet, and therefore what India may do after that. Jim?
Nick, I wonder, given that India's strikes, and this is notable to your point, struck both inside Pakistan-controlled Kashmir and inside Pakistan proper, is it reasonable to expect that crushing blow, as Pakistani officials are describing it, might do the same in kind? That is, strike inside Indian-administered Kashmir, but also perhaps inside India itself?
I think there's a genuine potential for that. And the military here have released pictures of some of the victims of the overnight attack from India. And the first assessment of the Pakistani military here is that they only have civilian casualties. And some of the images they released show women and children blooded and inside a hospital. So again, the fact that women and children have been injured beyond military-aged males is going to, if you will, ratchet up the potential for response. Now, Pakistan's military is describing the casualties that they've seen so far as civilian casualties.
That's a huge point, too. Jesus Christ. So first of all, there's no evidence Pakistan is responsible for that terror attack that happened in India. Second of all, this response from India is not only attacking Pakistan, but getting civilians. That doesn't look good, bro. That does not look good. I got a lot of potentially controversial conclusions about this when we're done learning about it here. So hang in there for that, because I feel like that's also super important.
It's unclear to me whether Pakistan would strike back at military targets or if they would strike back beyond that. If they strike back at military targets, there's a potential that escalation doesn't get out of hand.
I think that's cope. I think that's cope. Yeah, if you just attack the military targets of the Hindu nationalist extremist far-right government that's been chomping at the bit for this war for a long time, maybe then he'll go, all right, I back down, bro.
But the tensions have been hugely high. The Pakistani security officials believe this is an existential moment. The fact that the water to the country that powers a lot of the electricity generation here, that's absolutely vital.
That's another crucial fact, a key fact that cannot be overlooked, is that with India threatening the water going into Pakistan, again, that the idea is not like we're specifically targeting terrorists that we're going after who we say attacked us first. That is like we are trying to wipe you out completely and steal the territory. That's what that is.
For agriculture, they feel that as an existential issue, and therefore their response was going to be accordingly strong from that perspective. It's very unclear to me where it will go from here, but the language has been very, very clear. If you track it, and I've been coming here for about, over 25 years. I first came here when Pakistan and India were fighting another one of their major skirmishes, which killed thousands of troops high in the Himalaya mountains inside of Kashmir, the Kargil battle that lasted several months. The language has become much harder and tougher in Pakistan from the military since then. This is an army, remember, that's been fighting an insurgency on their western border that has actually become increasingly ferocious as the security situation in Afghanistan has deteriorated and Islamist militants have used Afghanistan as a base and attacked into Pakistan with ferocity.
Oh my God, that's another amazing point. So, in other words, India gets attacked by Muslim fundamentalist extremist terrorists, and they're blaming Pakistan. Meanwhile, Pakistan is dealing with their own insurgency on the border they have with Afghanistan of Muslim extremist fundamentalist terrorists. This looks really fucking bad And the more you learn about it, the more India is not portrayed in the best light here.
That the army here over the past couple of decades has become tougher and stronger militarily in their ethos, in their outlook, and one can even say in their leadership. So there is a very strong and toughened military from the Pakistan's perspective, but also from the way their leadership evaluates the battle space and relation with neighbors. It's quite, in military terms, it's a tough leadership right now.
And Nick, drawing on your experience of previous high points in tensions, just personally, I remember being in India and Pakistan some 20 years ago in the 2000s when there was concern that there might be an escalation even to a nuclear exchange. Granted, just concern, and of course that didn't come to be. But place this current...
He says that like it's something from like thousands of years ago, right? Like, bro, you're just talking about like 20 years ago. Thankfully, that didn't happen, and we've reached the end of history now. Like, bro, two nuclear-armed powers are currently in a hot war. This is the hair on fire time.
Standoff in recent historical context in terms of how severe the tensions are today.
To give it try to give it a simple context here. You have a tougher and, if you will, more forward-leaning military. You have a military that, in the estimation of most Pakistani civilians, has a big influence in the running of the country. So there's that perspective. It's a tougher, more forward-leaning, more robust outlook, and national security decisions would reflect that. That this tension has been growing, as you say, it's unresolved for 75 years since the dispute over Kashmir left unresolved in 1947 after the British Empire basically divided India into two countries, Pakistan and India. Pakistan, of course, Muslim majority, India, Hindu majority.
And by the way, people were like forced from their homes in that, right? They had it so that it's like, hey, let's put all the Muslims on this side and have all the Indians on this side. So it was a violent and brutal thing.
They fought three major wars in the intervening period. 71 was one of the biggest, and various skirmishes as recently as 2019 and more subsequently. But in the outlook of where the situation is, it is the fact that India has decided to shut off water from these three major rivers that feed Pakistan's agriculture, therefore economy, therefore more than 200 million population, and power generation, which is vital, particularly in the summer when it gets extremely hot. It's needed for air conditioning, running industry. So these are existential issues for Pakistan at the moment, and that's, I think, that will underpin the thinking, and has been expressed to me by very senior security officials here, that the water issue is key. And I think, just to give a little bit of additional background on the water,
I need to point out, man, like, when you start doing stuff like that, it's indefensible. That's indefensible. Cut off the water, which could, like, destroy the entire country and kill civilians and lead people to dehydration, and, like, that is straight up an Israel-like maneuver. So no matter what you think of the conflict, certain aspects of this are not, like, they're not debatable. This is not a debatable thing.
That will underpin the thinking, and has been expressed to me by very senior security officials here, that the water issue is key. And I think, just to give a little bit of additional background on the water, this is something that was being litigated in courts in recent months, and the Pakistani perception is that India had been looking for a legal way to abrogate the terms of that Indus Water Treaty signed in 1960, had been looking for a legal way to do that in recent months, and had taken this particular killing of 26 civilians as a rationale and reason to immediately jump to that position. So this is something that Pakistan has seen coming, and therefore they believe that this is not just a sudden decision by India, it's something they're pushing for.
Jesus Christ. Now, by the way, since this segment came out, here's the update. Visual evidence so far suggests that 2 Indian Air Force jets were shot down. A Russian-produced MiG-29, MiG-29, and a French Rafale shown below. So let's see what we can see here. Okay. Yeah, they're showing this is the jet. You got wreckage here in a short video. Ryan Grimm says 2 Indian jets appear to have been downed in the attack on Pakistan. So was this the retaliation? Is it going to go further? Are we going to see more revenge and retribution? In a scenario like this, it's hard to imagine anybody, like, cooler heads truly prevailing and anybody getting back to a negotiating table, because it seems like we have an intractable position here on the part of India. Again, when you're threatening to cut off the water to a whole country, that is beyond indefensible, if you ask me. That is absolutely absurd and a complete and utter war crime. So yeah, my overall takeaway here, point number one, yes, I think it is absolutely fair to blame Donald Trump and the United States for this, because think about what he's done since he's gotten in power. He is completely chaotic, completely unstable, makes the dumbest decisions imaginable, launches a trade war against our allies, bombs a bunch of countries, threatens to bomb ally countries of ours, isolates us from the world, makes clear that we're no longer the world's leading power, we're no longer the global superpower, makes clear international law doesn't matter anymore, human rights don't matter anymore, the UN doesn't matter anymore. There is no captain of the ship for the world. That's the point. And in a scenario like that, yes, a far-right Hindu nationalist freak like Modi can look around and go, nobody's going to stop me from doing what the fuck I want to do. So that's one place you put the blame. Another place you put the blame is, yes, Israel. Why? Because we've been live streaming a genocide and an ethnic cleansing in 4K for years now, or, for a very long time now, and nobody's done dick to stop it, right? Israel just keeps plowing along and keeps deflecting and obfuscating and lying half the time. And the other half the time, they'll be honest internally and say, yeah, there are no civilians there, and we're going to steal the territory, and we're going to reoccupy Gaza, and we want to push out all the Palestinians and make them go to Egypt and make them go to Jordan. And all of this stuff is happening in the clearest way I've ever seen. It's front and center. And so in a scenario like that, yeah, the rest of the world's going to look around and go, wait a second, I thought that if we were to act like that, there actually would be consequences. I thought the United States would reel in a country that's acting like that and apply the law, or at the very least apply political and economic pressure to get them to stop committing the war crimes, to get them to somewhat coincide with international law. But no, now the world looks around and they see, oh, we're back to the law of the jungle type days. And it's in a scenario like that where these incredibly flippant, insane decisions are made that are going to affect millions of people. I mean, again, we're talking about cutting off all the water to basically destroy all of Pakistan. That's not a debatable issue. That's not a debatable issue. It's also not a debatable issue. They haven't shown any evidence that Pakistan was responsible for that terror attack. So they're just using that as an excuse and a rationalization to say, oh, it was Pakistan. Now we're going to go to war with Pakistan and we're going to try to take back over Jammu and Kashmir, and we want to destroy that country and, basically bring this to our final solution that we want to see. So there's a lot to say about the lack of U.S. leadership, and now anything goes, and we're back to the law of the jungle. There's a lot to say about Israel live streaming a genocide in 4K and fucking completely getting away with it right in front of our eyes. That has emboldened the worst actors in the world. Far-right extremism begets more far-right extremism. That's what happens. And so now you have a far-right extremist, a Hindu nationalist like Modi, going, I'm going to do what the fuck I want. I'm going to bomb Pakistan. I'm going to kill civilians. I'm going to cut off their water. And in the past, yes, you had moments in the past where they were flirting with this sort of stuff. The massive lockdown and cutting off of electricity in 2019 to the region. That was huge. And I remember talking about that at the time. But this is above and beyond, where now it's a hot war. And again, I want to repeat this. You have two nuclear-armed powers that are already in a hot war. And the idea that, oh, don't worry, like what? The U.S. delegation is all over it? What's going to happen? Is Mike Waltz, now the UN ambassador, or supposed to be the UN ambassador, is he going to go de-escalate the situation? Is fucking Pete Hegseth working on diplomacy? Is Donald Trump making phone calls at 4 a.m. and trying to get to a rational solution and using carrots and sticks and trying to get everybody to de-escalate and trying to appease both parties and try to... No, none of this is happening. None of this is happening. We are fucked. We are fucked. And on a daily basis, everything gets worse. And guys, this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. The precedent was set by Israel that there is no more international law. The U.S. went right along with it, gave them more money, gave them more weapons as they bombed children, right? And so any region in the world that has something bubbling like this, it's going to spill over. It is going to spill over. So we have entered a new dark age an age where there is no more international law, the UN doesn't matter, there are no rules, it's back to might makes right, and the horrors that we're about to see. I mean, stop and think about it, guys. The number of videos that we've all seen of babies in Gaza with their heads blown off, right? Starvation campaigns where the evidence is all right. Israel is saying, yeah, we're not allowing in any food over 60 days. You have countless people. I mean, shit, we're probably in the hundreds or thousands of people who've literally starved to death, and it's only going to go up. We've seen all of this, and nothing's happened to them. There are no consequences. There is no justice. So yes, any extremist regime now is going to go, oh, we can do that too. So here we are. Here we are. God help us all, y'all. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.